Now, it was a remarkable moment in Washington on Wednesday. President Trump's relentless attacks on journalists led Republican Senator Jeff Flake to deliver an impassioned speech on the Senate floor. He warned that American democracy is at risk and went as far as comparing Mr. Trump to a Soviet dictator.
The enemy of the people was how the President of the United States called the free press in 2017. Mr. President, it is a testament to the condition of our democracy that our own president uses words infamously spoken by Joseph Stalin to describe his enemies.
Now, let's get a more in-depth look at the impact of Mr. Trump's attacks on the media, especially here in Asia. And joining us from Washington is Steven Butler, the Asia Program Coordinator for the Committee to Protect Journalists. Steven, thank you so much for joining us here on the program. U.S. Senator Jeff Flake, incredible words there. You know, he says Trump's attacks on the media is, in fact, inspiring authoritarian governments around the world. Are you seeing the Trump effect take hold here in Asia?
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, you look across the region. I think press freedom is in retreat in almost every country. In the Philippines, they're attempting to shut down a major independent news source. Journalists have been in jail in Cambodia and Myanmar. Frankly, it's a depressing situation.
And just to play devil's advocate here, is this really the impact of fake news and Donald Trump, or was press freedom already under threat in Asia?
I think we're seeing the culmination of a number of trends. One, the U.S. is definitely retreating in terms of its influence, its economic influence, its political influence in the region. Donald Trump has added to that. His statements certainly create an atmosphere in which leaders believe they can do what they want to the press and not face consequences. But the other influence is China. China has a very repressive, intense control over their domestic press, and they are increasing their influence in the region. If you look at Vietnam, it looks to me like they are actually copying some of the methods that China has used. And in other cases, if the United States turns away from these countries, they can turn to China for support.
Yeah, in case in Vietnam, there's a citizen journalist who was recently arrested there for flying a drone to cover a protest. You mentioned a moment ago about what's happening in the Philippines. You know, we know that the Philippines is home of a flourishing media, a number of outspoken news outlets. Rappler, the online news platform, saw its operating license withdrawn this week. Is this due to Duterte? Is this due to Duterte emboldened by Donald Trump?
It's hard to say if Duterte has been emboldened by Donald Trump or it's the other way around. I mean, he's a bit of a brand of his own character. He has gone after, of course, not just the press, but there have been, thousands of suspected drug dealers who've been killed. The press has gone after, including Rappler, has gone after the president over this sort of activity. And it's natural, I think, that his next step will be to crack down on it. But you saw the president and President Trump and President Duterte together joking about the press when President Trump was in Manila. So I think they're birds of a feather here.
Yeah, that's right. I mean, they shared the joke about the press, oh, they're spies, and they had a chuckle in Manila earlier, well, last year. A case in Myanmar that has grabbed our attention, our viewers' attention, about the two Reuters reporters. They're now facing up to 14 years in prison for doing their job as journalists. What should the international community, what can the international community do to advocate for their freedom and press freedom at large across Asia?
Well, I think the international community has been doing actually what it should be doing, particularly in the case of Myanmar. There has been an inspiring, unified international voice condemning what they're doing and calling for the release of these two individuals. It would be wonderful if the President of the United States would join that, but we've seen very strong support from the Congress, from international press freedom groups, from the European Union, and hopefully, there's another hearing in that case on the 23rd of January. Hopefully, they will at least be granted bail. That's, I think, the best we can hope for in the short term.
So from Myanmar to the Philippines, the press is under attack in Asia. Is it going to get worse this year?
Well, it's hard to see why it would get better. And I hate to say that, but the forces against press freedom, you have to say, they're growing stronger. They're not growing weaker. And the lack of leadership from the United States is something that is completely new. And every president, prior to Donald Trump, has spoken out strongly in favor of press freedom. You still have some people in the administration and in the diplomatic corps making an effort in this direction. But without the voice of the president, it lacks power in the same way that it did previously.
Very pessimistic outlook for press freedom in Asia. Steven Butler, thank you so much for joining us. Steven